guys? I just finished watching Impact Wrestling about 37 minutes ago or so. It went off, and my God, Kenny Omega. It had been pretty much promoted ever since it happened. Ever since Don Callis announced it last week that they were coming to Impact, that Kenny Omega was coming to Impact, and what a way he came. The cockiness, the cleanser, the thing that people have called Kenny within his heel run in New Japan is exactly what we saw here, where pretty much Kenny and Don Callis ducked the questions, the heavy questions that Josh Matthews tried to ask them. And he even brought up the fact that Moxley. He even brought up the fact that Moxley was like friends with Josh Matthews during the tough enough days, and he brought up his name as Ambrose. I mean, he just really took this to a whole nother level. So much so that there was a bodyguard, there was some security guard there when Rich Swann was about to walk outside who wouldn't let him go out because he said that nobody else is allowed to come. You have to be on the list in order to go on the bus or whatever. And then, Rich thought that this was Moose doing this because, Moose is all this time he's been carrying around the TNA World Heavyweight Championship and calling him the self-proclaimed champion. But then he told him that it's not Moose, and he found out it was Kenny, and then he was, not able to go past the security. He tried to walk past the security. I even thought he was going to hit the security, but the security guard wouldn't let him pass, and he only let Josh pass because Josh was going to be doing the interview and ask the heavy questions. And Rich was mad, and it makes me wonder. Um, this was definitely, you didn't see Kenny get in the ring, you didn't see Kenny attack people, but it definitely makes me wonder if somewhere down the road, if we might see, maybe Rich try to get involved in AEW, or a Kenny and Rich thing down the road. You never know. So many matches people have said that they want to see between AEW and Impact Wrestling, and this was really pretty heavy on Rich, to not be able to go out there because of Kenny, and that was pretty insane. And then from there, like I said, Josh Matthews, he brings up the fact of the way that Kenny won, and Don basically, and Kenny, basically says that, with him being family with Don Callis, he's like, when Moxley was attacking him, of course he was going to be upset over that. And I mean, really, a lot of the stuff that they were saying, you know, although Kenny now is a heel and people have loved this gimmick he used in New Japan, I never really got to see the gimmick when he was in New Japan, but I understand it's like called the cleanser or something like that. But you could really tell, you could really see that a lot of stuff they were saying were really factual, which is a lot of times why when they have these heels, it's kind of almost hard to believe nowadays, because sometimes a lot of these heels, they say these things that the fans are going to agree with. And I mean, he brought up the fact of how every match, almost nearly about 17 of matches in AEW, um, have mainly that's been like great matches he's been a part of. He brought up the fact that he's had star-studded matches in New Japan and Triple A and all these other promotions. And one thing I found interesting about this whole thing when Josh was interviewing him was the fact that Don Callis actually said this goes way back to 27 years ago. It's not like these guys. This is why he calls them more than a friend and calls them family, because his whole bond and relationship with Kenny, which I didn't know, actually goes all the way back to his uncle 27 years ago. So that means all the way back to 1993, he's had this close relationship with Kenny Omega, and this was actually brought up in their promo that was being cut on Josh. And of course, they brought up the fact of how he basically came up with the concept of AEW after his match with Chris Jericho almost 3 years ago at Wrestle Kingdom. That was really when they came up with the concept of bringing another promotion, AEW, to existence. And you could just really see the cockiness and the attitude of Kenny in this interview. I mean, he even decided to wait until he came to Impact's turf to change the plate of the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Instead of changing it, beforehand, he waited until he was on the bus before Josh got to ask the question, regarding about his actions, regarding about the route he took before he really got to ask that. And he even tried to ask, was it ruining, that he felt like it was ruining his legacy to take that type of route to win the match. And of course, he said that that wasn't the case, which I expected him to say. And right in front of Josh's face, they take the plate off of Moxley's name, and then he places Kenny Omega's name. Don Callis places Kenny Omega's name, and he mentions about this special announcement that they're going to be making tomorrow, which they kind of hinted of what the announcement may be. He brought up Lex Luger name, and it was kind of weird. I mean, I don't really know what this announcement is supposed to be come tomorrow, but it's going to be interesting. And I'm hearing that this was a one-off. Um, I don't think this was. I don't think this is supposed to be an extension. I'm not really sure. I heard that this is a one-off. Like I'm not sure if he's going to come to Impact next week or not, but I heard that this is a one-off. I know Impact pretty much already taped all their shows for the rest of this year, so they pretty much took this piece of the show and added it on to the episode because it was taped like last week. But so I know that Impact already finished up all their shows, but I'm not really sure how much further they go with this, but with the way that they had Rich Swann, I would really love to see these guys somewhere down the road have a showdown with each other. I think that would be amazing. And I saw a lot of people. Um, I'm not going to get too carried away with myself like how some people were, because I don't know how long this is going to go. I mean, they had a lot of run-ins. They've been having a lot of run-ins with NWA because you got Serena Deeb in Impact AEW right now, who's the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the NWA Women's Champion. Excuse me. She's been wrestling AEW from time to time. You had Thunder Rosa, who actually came in as the NWA Women's Champion, and she lost the belt to Serena Deeb, and now I think she now actually signed the contract with AEW. So they've been having crossovers with them, having NWA come to them. So, I'm not really sure uh, where this will go, but there's definitely a lot of matches down the road um, that I would love to see them do. Not necessarily now. I think this was definitely a good start though for them, especially with them not letting Rich Swann out of the door, that security guard, and then just to see how cocky and just how arrogant, you know, Kenny Omega was acting during the whole interview. Pretty much, Josh was just speechless because Don and Kenny were pretty much just taking over the interview, and he even brought up how he could potentially, because he mentioned how ever since he was little, he had always been into comics, which is true. If you know anything about Kenny, you know that he's been into anime, he's been into comics for like a long time. He's always been into that type of stuff, which is one of the reasons why, which makes sense of why he wrestled with New Japan as long as he did, and even now. So, because that was something he was always into for so long. And he brought that up, and then he mentioned how he always liked collecting things. He had to stop for a while because he always liked to collect things, and he brought up how he could collect some championships from Impact, and so it was a lot of teasers that he was throwing out there in front of Josh, and I kind of felt bad for Josh in a way because he didn't really do much. He couldn't really ask that much because they pretty much just took over the interview. And, at the same time, it's kind of interesting how they revolved around the show towards this. Even though you had the main show of some really good stories going on, with the Rich Swann uh, situation with facing Chris Bay. Chris Bay actually pinned, um, you know, Willie Mack in the tag team match in the main event when he teamed with Moose because Moose speared him and Rich Swann was out of the ring and then Chris Bay went for the pin, a really decent main event, and you had the situation with Sammy Callahan, who basically brought up the bat, which he used 2 weeks ago to attack Eddie Edwards. But little did he know Eddie Edwards was going to come back. He even showed the footage of the first time he attacked him. Then he was going to show the footage of the second time, but Alicia Edwards came out And, Eddie Edwards came and attacked him from behind, so you had that happen. And then she told him backstage that she wanted him to now help her with her problems since she helped him with his, and she rejected. Tanina Dashwood being with her, even though she was the one who originally asked, because she's been more focused on her husband now. So you had, the main show of stuff going on. The women's tag team tournament continued. Rosemary and Tainari beat Deanna and Kimberly, which is a really decent match. And then, Deanna was upset backstage, and then, um, Scott D'Amore says, well, you're going to be defending the title against Rosemary at Final Resolution. So that wasn't really the best present for her. So you had a heck of a lot of things. Even, Tommy Dreamer even brought up how he didn't feel comfortable with, he didn't feel necessarily comfortable with Kenny being here. But, Scott is just, he's just good. He's just flexed with it. And you had that advertisement of Tony Giovanni and even the owner of AEW, Tony Khan, advertising about Kenny being on Impact. So you just had a lot of mentioning of it throughout the show of Kenny Omega. And I did find it kind of interesting because, you would think when someone else is invading your turf, even though he did kind of tease that he could buy Impact. And I'm not sure if Tony Khan actually would buy Impact, even though he has the money to do it. I'm not really sure he would do that considering they're not in the same financial situation that they were a couple of years ago before they were bought by Anthem. Excuse me if I'm wrong about that, but I think Anthem was the one that bought them. Um, but that was a pretty interesting tease. But the one thing that did kind of get me with this is, normally when there's an invasion, you would think they wouldn't be that excited about another company and coming to their turf, but it was just so much excitement. And normally it would be kind of the opposite, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting invasion. Wasn't necessarily an invasion, but that's what I'll call it to a degree. And I think down the line we could definitely see some more things happen between these two, even if this is just a one-off, and even if Impact comes to AW tomorrow. Um, we could definitely see some more things down the line take place. I mean, even on the main show with Impact, I thought the show was pretty decent, even, prior to all the advertising with him. Even with Eric Young beating Cody Deaner with that whole thing. Just so many things happened on the show. Um, even with TJP losing to Brian Myers, with Brian Myers pushing the ref, hit him with a clothesline, which was pretty crazy. But a lot of things happened. Even Ethan Page, basically, they're almost. It's funny because a lot of people want to see the North square off against somebody from AEW like the Young Bucks or something like that. But they're kind of teasing a dissension between them, considering Ethan Page pretty much cost Josh Alexander his match with Chris Sabin to start off the show. So a lot of stuff happened, but the Kenny thing was really revolved around the show. And like I said, the man just, he looked cocky. He looked really, really crazy, whatever. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting road. And 2021 is definitely going to be the year of Kenny because this man, I know he's going to hold the belt for quite some time. You could just see the arrogance of him a lot in this match, a lot in this interview here in the bus or truck, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I just wanted to come on here and briefly talk about this invasion because I watch Impact as it is, more consistent now than I used to. So I wanted to go and talk about this. So that's pretty much it. Shout out for you guys to Flex. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm sure some of you guys probably didn't see my last video, but if you did see my last video, make sure you check it out because there will be, again, some things I'll be adding to this channel. And hopefully you guys keep up with that. Shout out for you guys to Flex, and I'm out.